Where's your camera?
It's on here, so it's looking at me. No, it's looking at me, and then I have my screen share.
Oh, okay,
So
that's
I'll
fine.
just do it that way.
Okay. Okay, guys, are we ready? All right, this is gonna be a lot of information, so I need your undivided attention. Like, do not get distracted. Try not to because once you miss something, you know what I mean? Like, it could be something really important. Okay. All right, so we're gonna go over the cancer endurance benefit first. So I'm just gonna explain how it works, and then I'm gonna tell you how to sell it when you're enrolling. Okay. The cancer endurance benefit. You can enroll somebody in this benefit as long as they're 69 and younger. So if somebody's once they turn 70, they no longer qualify to enroll in this benefit. Okay. And then while we're on that note, the critical illness and accident protector max, you can only enroll an employee in the critical illness and accident protector max and intensive care. The next three benefits that I go over. You can only enroll them if they're 59 and younger. Once they turn 60, they no longer qualify. But that's good to know because if you're sitting down with somebody who's 59, anytime that I notice that they're only 59, I create the sense of urgency based on the fact that they won't qualify next year. So I tell them, hey, for the critical illness and accident plan, this is the last year. If you want to enroll in these, you have to get them locked in this year. Because next year you will not qualify. So it creates that sense of urgency. What? 59 and younger for critical illness, accident protector max, and intensive care.
And they enroll in it, and then it drops off at 65.
On their 66th birthday.
66, so they can actually carry it.
6 years.
Okay.
Yeah. Yep. So
it doesn't follow after, like, if you're like maybe
no.
For critical illness.
For critical illness and accident protector
They
max,
drop off.
okay? But back on the cancer endurance, so if they're over 60, then you can do group life insurance or the cancer endurance or cash cancer, okay? So I'll try to stay focused on just critical or cancer endurance. So 69 and younger qualifies, but this is a lifetime benefit. So once they enroll, 59 is critical illness, accident, and intensive care.
okay, 59 and younger is all three.
Yes.
Okay.
But the cancer endurance is 69 and younger. Okay. Once they enroll in the cancer endurance, they can keep it for the lifetime of the benefit. That's really awesome. So that's one of the selling points when I teach you guys how to enroll it. I'm going to use that to our advantage. Okay. Let's see here. Okay, so on this front page, okay, if you ever use this, because sometimes if they want more detail on the cancer endurance, you can whip out this copy and highlight more on how it pays. If they want more information than what's in the booklet that you use. So when I'm selling this, and I'm going to go over this again here in a second, but there's two things that make our cancer policy better than most. Okay? And I want you to take your highlighter and highlight it on this sheet. Okay. The first thing is that, let's see. Yeah, on the right-hand side, the second bullet point, it says guaranteed renewable for life. Okay. There's a lot of cancer policies out there that terminate at 65 or 70. This one doesn't, which is what I was just talking about. The other thing that makes this policy valuable compared to most, if you flip it over on the back side, you'll see highlighted in black, and I apologize, these are terrible copies, but it says no lifetime limit by each one, right? That's a selling point, which I'm going to highlight here in a second. The fact that there's no lifetime limit. So if cancer goes remission and comes back 5 years later, it'll keep paying, okay? They can make unlimited claims on this, okay? So how it works on the first diagnosis of any type of cancer, the first check they're going to receive is $3,500. So go ahead and highlight that. Okay. If they're hospitalized due to cancer, the first 90 days they're in the hospital, it pays $250 per day. And then after 90 days, it bumps up to $600 every day after that. And there's no lifetime max on how much that's going to pay. So regardless, if they're in the hospital 180 days, first 90 days, they'll get $250. Then after that, they'll get $600. Okay. Every surgery, go ahead and highlight that. It pays up to $2,000 per surgery. And there's no lifetime limit, so they have multiple surgeries, they'll get up to $2,000 per surgery. And then this brochure that you're looking at is an Illinois brochure, okay? So the only difference between Missouri and Illinois is in Illinois, it has an added benefit where it'll cover post-mastectomy and reconstructive surgery. And actually, I was shocked to learn that a lot of health insurance won't cover post-mastectomy, okay? So that's huge. So if you're sitting down with somebody and they're like in Illinois and they're like, my wife had breast cancer, my mom had breast cancer ever. I always think like, okay, if I'm in Illinois, that's a selling point. This covers post-mastectomy and reconstructive surgery. Okay.
But I will point out, because I've heard a couple people doing it in training, if you're talking to a guy who is single, that's not necessarily something that you want to be like focused on.
Right.
Because it doesn't affect him. So
Right.
just be aware of who you're talking to when you're talking to them. What? But do you have a reconstructive surgery after? I wouldn't.
I don't know if you do this.
And I don't. I know, but I think that just being aware of who you're talking to. If they're single man and they're like,
Yeah.
okay, why are you wasting time talking about that part?
Yeah. And it pays out a bunch of different ways. I'm going to highlight the main ones. Radiation and chemotherapy. Go ahead and highlight that one. This one's a big one. It pays up to $500 per day for chemo and radiation. Just so you guys know, Aflac's cancer policy only pays $350.
Up to $500 a week.
Okay, even better. Up to $500.
I've seen
Yeah.
the policy paperwork.
Okay, so just keep that in the, so sometimes like if I pull this out and I'm going over policy detail, I'll say ours pays up to $500. The highest I've seen on any other policy is $350. Like you don't want to be like, you know,
Aflac.
yeah, just say the highest I've seen on any other policy is $350. Ours pays $500 per day, and there's no lifetime limit on that. And a lot of you guys have heard of the story. We had a claim here, which you can use when you're talking to an employee. We had a lady, she had 45 treatments of chemo over a period of time. We waited till the end, we submitted it. She got a check for $22,500 because it paid $500 for 45 times. Okay, and that was in addition to that initial $3,500. So if you want to give an example, that's a fantastic example. You can just say, you know, we had a claim out of our office, you know, not too long ago where a lady had chemotherapy treatments, 45 treatments, and this part of the benefit paid $22,500. Okay, so highlight that. Underneath that is prescription chemotherapy, is a very expensive drug. Typically, even if they have health insurance, a lot of times people have to pay a lot out of pocket for that. This will pay up to $10,000 a year. And if they have to have that prescription chemotherapy for 5 years, there's no limit on that. Blood transfusions up to $500 per day. And then the next two are really important. It covers new and experimental treatment, which is huge because a lot of cancer treatments are experimental. So that's covered, so highlight that. And then transportation costs. So when you guys are presenting to a DM and it talks about that last point, you know, we'll even cover to and from any cancer treatment center in the United States. That's this part. So it'll cover all charges, if you want to read that paragraph, for the person diagnosed, and they can take somebody with them to any hospital or clinic in the US. So highlight that. 6 trips a year is on the last line. So maximum limit of 6 trips in a consecutive 12-month period, highlight that. And they can do airfare, railroad, bus, however they want to get there. And then you'll see 25 cents per mile if personal car is used at a destination that's more than 100 miles away. So when I'm at these far enrollments, I always use that. Like if I'm down in Cairo, Anna, you know, if you know you've traveled over 100 miles to get to that enrollment, you can say like if you have to go to St. Louis, you know, Barnes, or to go to a cancer treatment, like they'll actually reimburse you. Because I've met with employees where they've told me stories like, yeah, I had to take my mom up to St. Louis twice a week. Like that adds up, especially when gas is, you know, $3 a gallon or whatever. So so that's a good point. There's income replacement. And then something that I don't think a lot of you guys know, make sure you highlight the dread diseases. Okay. So not actually, this policy, not only does it cover cancer, but it also covers different, certain diseases as well. It pays the hospital confinement benefit. So that's that second benefit at the top. If somebody is diagnosed with treatment for cystic fibrosis, don't even know how to pronounce the second one, Lou Gehrig's disease, meningitis, multiple sclerosis, muscular dystrophy, rabies, scarlet fever, sickle cell anemia. I mean, they're all listed there. Okay. But it is nice that because sometimes you'll sit down with somebody and they're like, yeah, my dad passed away from Lou Gehrig's disease, or somebody, you know, my aunt had MS, or like, you know, you'd be surprised. Like, I always like that triggers my mind and I'm like, oh, cancer endurance. You know what I mean? So, so that's how this policy works. Okay.
They're doing experimental benefit treatment. What's the deal? That's not the full cost, is it?
So, it says covered person charges. So like the person that's diagnosed with cancer for new or experimental cancer treatment under policy's regular schedule of benefits, treatments must be approved by AMA and FDA and administered in the United States by a licensed physician. So it won't pay for like something in Mexico or something like that. I have had somebody ask me that before. And then in agent services, okay, so if you log on to agent services and you click Illinois or Missouri, you can go to the cancer endurance, and that's what it's saying, where it says under the policy's regular schedule of benefits. If you click that, you can read it. Okay. But just for time's sake. Okay, but that's where you'd find that answer. Okay, just in case somebody asks. All right. Okay, so that's how that works. Now, when you're enrolling an employee, okay, now let's build value. So everybody go to their employee benefit booklet. Okay. So some of you guys, and I want you guys to write down some of these one-liners. Okay, because you're only going to retain probably 25% of what I'm going to tell you today. Oh, Diana's recording it. Okay, so the cancer endurance obviously falls under living benefits. Okay, so how I always like to describe, so when you're enrolling somebody, I never use the word supplemental. Okay, just because these are supplemental benefits, but a lot of times, sometimes, not always, but people will put supplementals in a box and they'll put it like under Aflac, and we still get that, but I always like to just say these are living benefits. Okay, and how you build value in a living benefit and how you create need is, so how living benefits work. You have health insurance. Health insurance is designed to pay doctors and hospitals. These benefits pay you directly. Okay, that's how you build value in them. And the first one's the cancer endurance benefit. So before you ever go over how a policy works, remember, this is sales 101. You have to create the need, find the problem first, then give a solution. So like before I even go over this, I always like to ask, so what runs more in your family? Cancer, heart disease, neither, or both? Even if they say neither, I'll still go over the cancer endurance sometimes. But it's important to say that because then you'll find out ahead of time if they have cancer that runs in their family. Don't you want to know that? Right? You don't want to explain how policy works and then find out after the fact that they dealt with their mother having cancer or father or whatever. Find out first, because if they have a personal connection to it, it's a lot easier for them to understand. Okay. So if they say, well, cancer, great. If you don't mind me asking, who was it for you? So write that question down. Okay. When I was out in the field with Sam, he was like, well, I wonder this, I wonder that. I'm like, anything that you wonder, you want to just ask. That's what rapport is. We would hate when an employee leaves to be like, well, I wonder who was it in their family that had cancer. Just ask them. And it's not prying. You should already be friendly and have rapport by the time you get to this point a little bit, and just say, if you don't mind me asking, who was it for you? You're being friendly, right? And you want to find out who they have a connection with cancer. Oh, I'm so sorry. And talk to them about it for a while before you ever get into this benefit. That's what separates like great enrollers, people who enroll a lot of cancer policies, versus people who don't. Is because if you go, it's the same thing. If you go straight into business with a decision maker, they're gonna shut you down 75, 90% of the time, unless you're lucky. They have to have, you have to have that rapport, you have to have that connection. So you have to find that stuff out ahead of time. So, you know, cancer runs in your family. Okay, if you don't mind me asking, who was it for you? Oh, I'm so sorry. Like, how long did they battle it for? Ask all those questions. How long did they battle it for? What kind did they have? All those things, because then if they tell you specific things, you can use it as an example when you're going over this. Okay. And that kind of changes up when you're enrolling. But let's say they don't have cancer that runs in their family. Okay. How you build value is you say, okay, so the first thing I'm going to go over is with the cancer endurance benefit, because everybody that I see that I've talked to knows someone that's gone through cancer. So write that down. Everyone I know knows somebody that's gone through cancer. And I'm sure you can imagine it's not only costly physically, but it can be financially devastating. You want to get them to, you got to paint the picture. While you guys are writing that down, that's with all benefits. Like we are in sales. We're not selling like a chair you're sitting in, a table, you know how when you test drive a new car, there's nothing physical about anything that we have. It's all just peace of mind, right? So in order for them to see value in it, you have to paint the picture for them. So again, you don't want to go straight into how it works. You want to build a value. So, so the first thing I'm going to go over is the cancer endurance. I'm sure you've known people that have gone through cancer, and as you can imagine, it's not only costly physically, but it can be financially devastating. Okay, there's so many costs involved, even if you have health insurance. And you can even say, use the line from your presentation binder, you know, there are more bankruptcies in the United States due to medical debt. And you can imagine if you go through something like cancer, I mean, it really puts people in a financial situation. I mean, nobody's going to disagree with that. Okay. So we have so now we created that problem. Now I'm going to give them the solution. So we have this cancer endurance benefit, and there's two things. So this is how you transition to how it works. There's two things that make our cancer policy better than most out there. Because now I'm going to separate from all the other cancer policies. This is also how sometimes, like if people are like, well, I already have a cancer policy. Well, let me show you ours, because ours is actually one of the best ones out there. So not trying to replace what you have, but I'll explain how ours works, and then you can compare it. Sometimes we can save people money, but a lot of times our benefits pay out more anyways. Okay, so there's two things that make our cancer policy better than most, and it's the last two bullet points there. The first thing is there's no overall lifetime max. A lot of cancer policies have a cap. This one doesn't. And then the second thing is you can continue the coverage after you leave employment, which is huge because a lot of cancer policies will terminate at 65 or 70. This one doesn't. Question?
No.
No? Okay. So you want to start there, because that's what separates us like comparable to other ones. Okay. And how it works is it pays benefits on first diagnosis. So the moment you're diagnosed, it pays a lump sum benefit, which we know now from the policy breakdown, you can say of $3,500 to immediately help with your out-of-pocket deductibles and initial time off work. What does that sound like? Your presentation, right? Okay. You can make claims for income replacement. It pays every day if you're in the hospital due to cancer. Every treatment of radiation and chemotherapy, it'll actually pay up to $500 per treatment. And you can give that example of the lady, okay? 45 treatments. Prescription chemotherapies can be a very expensive drug. And a lot of people have a lot of out-of-pocket costs with that. This will actually pay up to $10,000 a year. And then the last one is that last point, new and experimental treatment. That is huge because a lot of cancer treatments are experimental and a lot of times they're not covered under health insurance, but this will help. Okay. And you can do this benefit just on you or the whole family. And I'm going to write that down for you. Okay. So that's how you go over that. Any questions? Am I missing anything?
I was just going to say again, like when you're new, the first thing that you do is you go to what you are comfortable with, which is always the basic information, like, ooh, I can read it off the screen, and I can just say, this is how it works, this is how it works, or this is what I say in my presentation. But talking to the employee, you need to make eye contact with them and express the need. You saw the difference, right? You guys that have enrolled with me, you've seen the difference, like making the eye contact with them and talking to them about why they need it. Nobody cares how it works or how much it costs if they know they need it.
Yeah.
Okay, you guys know that from your last jobs. If you were trying to sell them a glass of wine, you know it doesn't matter how much it costs because they need it because of whatever they have. Or you need this extra mattress because it's better than this other one. They don't care how it works unless they know that they need it. And if all you're doing is telling them how it works, they're like, I don't need that. I don't have cancer. I'm 20. I don't give a shit.
Right.
Right? You have to express the need. It does not matter anything else.
And-
You're looking at them and making sure that they understand why it's important. Why a 20-year-old person that has no cancer that runs in your family is this important.
That, and the other thing, okay, so I want you to write this down, because I'm gonna show you how to build me with somebody that's younger, okay? Because sometimes, like, why would I, if I'm in my 20s, care about a cancer policy yet? You know what I mean? So I'll show you how to create sense of urgency. But to piggyback off of her, there's a book, a really famous book. It's by Simon Sinek. It's called Starts with Why. It's a really good book for sales, to be honest, because that's what separates people who are like really good versus people like who go, like, you can know these policies in and out, but like she was saying, they don't care. They want to just know why they need it. That's why a lot of people get to the point, just tell me the bullet points of why I would need this. Oh, not good enough, not gonna do it. You know what I mean? Like, but if you give them bullet points and it's like, oh, okay, that makes sense. Okay. The higher the need, the less concerned they're gonna be with the price. So this costs, you know, $20 a paycheck, $50 a paycheck. If you create that need where it's high enough, they're not gonna be concerned with that. Okay, because they know they need it. All right. So to create the sense of urgency always. So in sales, you can be great verbatim, everything that I just said, but why would they need to do it now? Why wouldn't they wait? Okay, so how you create a sense of urgency with all of these policies, life insurance, all of them, is based off of age and health. So I'm sitting down with a 20-year-old, and it's great if I say, does cancer run in their family? So sometimes I'll start with that to create the need. Like, I'm going to go over this cancer endurance. And I'll flat out say, I realize you're in your 20s. This is probably the last thing on your mind. You might think this is something, you know, for an older person, but obviously people in their 20s are diagnosed with cancer too. But the advantage for you is that you're in the youngest age bracket, or you're in one of the youngest age brackets. I use that all day, every day. You're in one of the youngest age brackets. If they're not the youngest or whatever, but you're in one of the youngest age brackets. So the key thing is just locking in your age, and it's like nothing. That's what I tell them before I even show them the price, because it literally is. It's $1.79 a week, or $1.34 a week, I think, or something like that. I mean, anybody can afford that. So once you say that, most of the time young people will just do it because you said that. Because they're like, so the key thing is getting grandfathered into it. Once you get grandfathered into it, that will never go up. You'll have this cancer endurance benefit for the rest of your life. Okay, so that's how you create the need, and it works like magic.
Well, and remember Julie, like, she already had a whole bunch of policies, and then we talked about the need. She was like, no, I don't have any cancer. My husband has heart. But she didn't say it until after we talked about why. So then we talk about the why, and then she's like, all right, well, how much does it cost? She's like, oh yeah, that's fine.
Yeah.
They don't care how much it costs if they know why they need it. But whenever we first talked about it, like, do you have any cancer that runs in your family? No. My husband has a little bit of heart stuff, still went over it, still created the need, still took all three.
Okay. All right, so any questions on how we enroll somebody in the cancer endurance? Okay. Just to add, while I'm passing this out, the next one we're gonna go over is Accident Protector Max. But when you are enrolling an employee, like, speaking with emphasis and conviction is very important. So what I mean by that is, like, exactly how I'm talking right now. Like, if I'm looking you in the eye and I'm talking like this, like, I'm sure of myself, this is exactly what you need. That's another thing that's like subliminal that people don't realize, that great enrollers versus people who struggle, like, you have to speak with emphasis and conviction. I don't care if they walk in like this, like the last dude, and they're like, I'm not interested in anything, because the way that I present, like, they don't even realize I'm sliding into the benefits. Like, they really don't until I start writing them down. And then they're like, oh, well, I'm not, you know what I mean? But like, that's good. You want to be smooth with it, but you want to talk with emphasis and conviction, because you guys are licensed professionals. So you have to be confident in advising them on what they need. And I know you guys are young, not a lot of experience, but the best advice, and this is what my mentors told me in the business, is when you're sitting down with somebody, you pretend that that's your brother or your mom. Like if it's a younger person, like pretend it's your brother, your best friend, your mother, your father, your uncle, your grandma, your grandpa. So let's say that you were sitting down with your grandma or grandpa or mom and dad or whoever. What would you advise them on? And if you do that, like, then you will always make good choices. And you don't have to worry about it, because we do open enrollment every year. So when I was new in the business, I was like, I'm setting these people up with life insurance for the rest of their life. Like, I'm a little like, that's a huge commitment, because I started on the individual side. Like, they're going to be ACHing out of their bank account $100 a month or whatever for their life insurance every single month for the rest of their life. And I'm 22 years old. Like, that's a lot. But keep in mind, once I understood that, like, oh, people don't enroll in like everything they need the first time. What they do is they do what's comfortable. The key thing is just doing something that's comfortable that they need, because anything that they have is better than nothing. Like, it's better to have this than not need it. Okay. So as long as you do that, you can take the pressure off yourself. You can take the pressure off of them for themselves, enrolling into something for the rest of their life. Just, we'll be back every year. You can always change it. The key thing is just locking it in now type thing. And once you do that, but back to the emphasis and conviction is like, be sure of yourself when you're talking. So when you guys are practicing this, listen to yourself, record yourself. The power of eye contact is huge. But speaking with emphasis and conviction, like, even if you don't hit all the points that you need to, but if you're like, you speak like this, like it's that all sales is a transfer of belief. So if I'm like talking like this and I'm sure of myself, like, now they're going to view you as an advisor. Okay. And how you get them, again, sense of urgency, and how you get them to want to enroll on the spot and not want to take it home and think about it, I lost my train of thought. So how you get them to enroll on the spot. So speak with emphasis and conviction. Lost it.
Sense of urgency and like actually convey the need.
Yeah. If they know they need it. Being crystal clear. Because if, like Julia, when we were enrolling, I was like, slow down, because you want your points to like set in. So, because what I'm giving you guys is like literally like 4 or 5 sentences, but they're like really impactful sentences. So like when you say something like, what separates our cancer policy from most out there are 2 things. That's a short sentence, right? But the way I'm saying it is impactful. So it's like, it becomes a no-brainer. If that makes any sense. You want it to be, so it's not like too much information. If you give too much options and too much information, then they're like, well, I have to sit down and analyze this and really make a decision, because this is like a lot of information. No, simplify it. Bullet points. Like, you need this. This is a big problem. I created the need. And it's easy because you're in the youngest age bracket or one of the youngest age brackets or whatever, right? So you create that sense of urgency, and then they'll be more inclined to enroll on the spot. Okay. So that's the cancer one. So let's go on with the Accident Protector Max. Okay. So, I'm going to explain how it works. Okay. So on this front cover, sorry, these brochures changed. Let's see. All right, go ahead and flip on the back. I'll kind of explain. So it's not in this book, but the Accident Protector Max actually has 3 parts to it. There is a accidental death benefit. Okay, so as you can see, it covers the insured, so the employee, if they die in any type of accidental death, an additional $25,000 of life insurance. If it's an automobile accident, $50,000. If it's a travel accident, how you define that is anything that they pay a fare for, like plane, train, taxi cab, is a travel accident, then it's 250,000. Then you can see, huh?
Doesn't happen as
Because
often.
the likelihood,
Uber's
Is-
actually better than that, too.
huh?
Uber.
Yeah, anything they pay a fare for. Then you can see spouse and child, but then there's also dismemberment. So total loss of eyesight is both eyes. Total loss of, or loss of one limb or loss of two limbs, there's payouts for that too. And I have had somebody claim on a motorcycle accident, they lost their leg. I've had it happen once, but I mean, it happens, absolutely. So, but it's just it's nice that it's on there. Also, this is an easy upsell because think about it, in Missouri, it's $3 a week. Illinois, it's $2.08. Like, even if who cares about the injury benefits? For $2.08 pre-tax, you can have an additional 25,000 of accidental death benefit. Like, you could sell it just on that alone, like, you know what I mean? Like, especially somebody who has health issues, you know, maybe doesn't qualify, you need to do ALX, but you could sign them up with this for $2 more. You could sell it on the fact that it just has accidental death on there. Okay, so it's just a point to keep in mind. So how it works, so how we define an accident is anything from the outside in. So like, obviously the obvious ones, sprained ankles, broken bones, car accident. Recently got asked about somebody choking, right? Like if they're eating food and they choke, that would be considered an accident. We've had it pay for spider bites and bee stings. The only one that gets me and is a hernia. Because that's not technically an accident. What?
Remember my joke? Somebody asked me about it. Well, what about a pregnancy?
Oh, yeah.
Because it was accidental
From
from the outside in. I was like, he's like, I'm just saying, it could, I didn't mean to get her pregnant. I was like, Jesus.
But the point, like, just there's a slightly gray area, sometimes, you know, but the typical accident type stuff, okay? So how it works is any emergency room treatment, which includes urgent care, and it's where they go first. So just so you understand how our accident policy works, if they hurt themselves, they have to receive treatment within 48 hours. It's listed right there. So go ahead and highlight that, everybody. The first point on there. They have to receive treatment within 48 hours. And it's where they go first. So let's say they go to the doctor's office and the doctor's office is like, oh gosh, this is really, really bad. You need to go to the emergency room. Technically, this is supposed to pay only for the doctor's visit. That's technically how the policy is written. Okay, now we can get claims paid for emergency room, but I'm not trying to get super complicated with this. But the point is, it's where they go first. Okay. But it pays up to $500 what the bill is. So urgent care, like let's say urgent care is a lot cheaper than emergency room. So let's say the urgent care bill is only $375. It's going to pay $375 on that claim. But if they go to the emergency room and the bill's $1,200, it's going to pay $500. Okay, but you can make unlimited claims on that. The group rate will never go up. Then right underneath it, highlight that one, initial hospitalization benefit. They have to be in the hospital for 24 hours. Once they are and they're admitted, it pays another $1,000 benefit. And then there's a daily hospital benefit. This is a Missouri one. Missouri obviously is $3 a week. Illinois is $2.08. Okay. Missouri's is a little bit more expensive. It's not expensive, it's super cheap, but you get the point. Okay, it's a little bit, you pay a little bit more because it pays up to $500 per day that they're in the hospital. The first year, so look at that, less than 1 year pays $150 a day, less than 2 years, $250, 3 years, $350, and then once they get to 3 years or more, it pays $500 a day. In Illinois, it pays up to $300 a day. Not 500. So that's why it's a little bit cheaper. Okay. And then it doubles that amount if it's bad enough for intensive care. So put 2 times the daily hospital benefit for intensive care. Okay. So let me give you an example. I'll give you 2 quick examples. Well, no, one. I'll just give one. Recently had a son of a decision maker, actually. Mutuals. he was his son is 19, was trying to pass a car. The car ended up like turning and he flew off the embankment, 8-foot drop, and was like basically paralyzed from the waist down. He had this benefit, okay? Obviously an ambulance took him to the emergency room. So the ambulance, which I didn't cover yet, paid. Yeah. The emergency room paid. He obviously got admitted. He went to intensive care. So, and he had it more than 3 years. So this pays $1,000 every day he was in intensive care. And I don't know the exact amount, but let's pretend it was like 7 days. Okay. After he was in intensive care for 7 days, then he was in the hospital for 3 weeks after that. So now this pays $500 every day after that. Okay. And then he got moved to a rehab center, but it's going to pay all of that.
He's 19.
Very, very sad, but he's not paralyzed. He went to like the best spine doctor and he's going to walk again.
Oh, thank God. Wow.
Chicago. No, he was in Chicago right now.
So they went to pass someone and they turned as he went to pass them?
Yeah, like the lady didn't have her blinker on or whatever. And so he was like, well, I'm going to pass you. And then the lady went like this. And instead of hitting her, he like just drove off. And
If you go paralyzed in your legs, is that considered loss of life?
no, I think you
Really?
You
I
actually
thought I
have
would
to-
actually lose it. Wow, good question.
Rehab,
Because I
if
thought it was-
someone's rehab rehabilitation.
no,
Wow.
it doesn't like once they leave the hospital, like then it's done. Okay. Because I have had people who like, let's say they break their leg really, really bad. And then, they're in the hospital, maybe a day or whatever. They go home and then they later on have a scheduled surgery to like fix something. It's not going to cover that. It only covers where they go first. And as long as they're there the first time.
So they
But keep in mind, guys, this is only $3 a week. So this is not a disability because sometimes people are like, oh, this is a fantastic policy, but you got to keep in mind, it's great, but it's also only $3 a week or $2 a week, depending if you're in Illinois, because it's supposed to help instantly. Like just the instant injury, it's not supposed to replace your income for long periods of time. It's definitely going to help.
And I would say that
But-
I would be very careful about saying those words. That this is gonna help replace your income after an accident. What I like to say, like, cause you don't say that when you're rolling.
Mm-mm.
You'll say, this is supposed to help with that first out-of-pocket expense for that accident, because that's where the confusion can come in. Oh, this is supposed to supplement my income while I'm out of work. That's not a short-term, long-term disability.
Right,
They
this
have
is
that
not.
all the time.
They get
that They get
confused.
confused, and if you are very, very clear, you've gotta be very clear at the very beginning, this is for an instant, the very first place you go for that accident. Now, if you go to urgent care and they send you to the emergency room, it's only gonna cover the urgent care. It's not gonna cover the emergency room, even though they transfer you there.
Yeah.
Only gonna cover, so if you think it's a broken bone and you're gonna have to get it set, go to the emergency room first. It'll cover more than instead of you just, oh, maybe that was good.
Yeah.
That's your call, but like, and we have to re-explain it. Sometimes people get mad, sometimes they cancel, which fine. But again, we just say like, listen, it's a $3 a week policy. It's not intended to replace your income.
Yeah, this
for
is
60
yeah.
weeks. That's not what this policy is.
Because even with the first claim on that, essentially takes their whole year at least.
Yes.
So they get that back.
I say
Even if
that.
They don't get everything through it.
If you have a claim within
Right.
3 years, it repays you the 3 months. But it's not intended to replace your income for several months. It's not the point.
Welcome, Mark. Let me give you one of these. We're doing
Here, I got it.
Okay. And you're gonna need a notebook and pen to take notes. Okay, so that's how this policy works. Any questions? Okay, so now let's go. We're enrolling the employee. How do we build value? Okay. So I usually say the next thing, the next thing that I'm gonna go over is this accident protector max. And you have to pay attention to the person that you're sitting down with. So remember, why would somebody need this benefit? So I start with, this is perfect for you, especially for you because you have kids or because you're in this industry, mechanic, auto body shop, construction worker, drives truck, we're out there in the blue, like pay attention to that, use that to your advantage to help create need. So start there. Okay. Because this covers any injury. And then you want to use some examples like sports related injuries, four-wheeling, dirt biking, motorcycle riding, hunting. Try to like find things that the person you're sitting down with, more than likely it'll pertain to them. Okay. If you're sitting down with like farmers or whatever, like, you know what I mean? Like
This
this
is where your rapport at the beginning. Hey, what'd you do over Thanksgiving weekend? Oh, you rode on your 4x4. What are you doing this weekend? Oh, we're going hunting. These are huge things for you to know.
I want everybody to write this down because this is sales 101. Okay. These are like the bullet points, like really have to get it. And this transfers to all sales. Okay. When you're asking questions of somebody, they will tell you exactly how to sell them. They will tell you exactly how, so you have to listen and be like, oh, I can use that. I can use that. I can use that. I can use that. Like to help build value. Because remember, everything starts with why. Well, why would this person in particular? Well, Brandon, you're a mechanic. Like that's why you would need this. You're going to get metal in your eye at some point, cut your hands, need stitches, you know?
And remember the last time you did that, you didn't have health insurance, you just duct taped it. Remember I said that today to the guy that's on the, you just duct taped it. And he was like, I absolutely do that. I'm like, now for $1.47 a week, you can go to the hospital and get money back.
Yep.
Done.
You know, you're building, you know, you're just chit chatting. Oh, I'm going hunting later. Boom. Like I'm going to use that as an example when I go over this Accident Protector Max. Oh, my kids are in, you know, football, baseball, whatever. You're, you know, find all that out. Use that specific example. Don't say like, oh, this will cover sprained ankles and like, you know, cuts and bruises. Be like, no, this is perfect for your situation because your kids play sports. Your sons are in baseball. Like I'm sure they're going to have, you know, at some point, some type of sports related injury. That's where this comes in, right? Now I'm painting that picture specifically to their situation.
And when you can steal somebody else's stories, like we did for the cancer one, when you do for the discount card, hey, my coworker, she saved $200 on her contacts. My coworker, she took her son 3 times this year because he played baseball. He's kind of a mess. What? Use those stories. You don't have your own family that you can use as an example. Use somebody else's. 100% fine.
Yeah. So you want to start with that first. So this is perfect for you because, and another one, like if you're sitting down with somebody, let's say they look like they work out, you can say like if you go to the gym or like you find out that they're a runner or whatever, like it's inevitable. Like I've sprained my ankles multiple times. Like you can use that as an example. Like if you're working out and you dislocate your shoulder, like I will use the examples that work specifically for them. So it's protection for the unexpected. You can cover the whole family. It covers you on and off the job. So back to this booklet, go ahead and highlight that. So it covers them on and off the job. So it does pay in addition to workman's comp. And then highlight that 5th bullet point down. That's where I start. So any emergency room treatment, which includes urgent care, it's going to pay up to $500. Mark, you're going to need one of these employee benefit booklets too. Because I'm going over like how you enroll. Yeah. So any emergency room treatment, which includes urgent care, it's going to pay up to $500 per incident. You can make unlimited claims. And then I go back up to the 3rd bullet point. And then if you're admitted in the hospital, it pays another $1,000 benefit. Then it pays every day you're in the hospital up to $500 or $300 if you're in Illinois. Doubles that amount if it's bad enough for intensive care. So highlight all of those because you want to like actually take your pen and like point to those. And then it pays additional benefits for dislocations and fractures, additional benefits for an ambulance, but all these things stack on top of each other and then they send you a check. Okay. And guys, we're in the business of repeating ourselves. So like you can repeat yourself again. So again, you have health insurance that pays doctors and hospitals. This pays you directly. And you can use that money for whatever you need it for. And then the last thing, it's not on here, but write it in your book, quick claims. You want to mention quick claims. So if you do need to make a claim on this, we can do it all digitally online and get the money direct deposited to you within 24 to 48 hours. Okay. So I'm going to quiz you. What is the, what's the age limit on this? How old? Yeah. So you can only enroll somebody 59 and younger. Once they turn 60, they no longer qualify. So again, if you're sitting down with a 59-year-old, 58-year-old, make sure you're like creating that with sense of urgency, okay? Any questions?
And I gave you guys all that quick enrollment cheat sheet, which is a little complex if you haven't taken the time to look at it, but I don't pull that out all the time, but I do have a Post-it note on my desktop, like real small. It gives me the years of when those things, like in 1971, they're gonna get a QAC call. They were born before 1971. So when I type in, because I'm not good with math, that whenever I put their birth date in, I remember. Same thing for these, like if it's 1961, then they no longer qualify for blah, 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 blah. And you can put that just at the very top. They don't know what that means. Like you just use only CE, ALX, LS1. Just write yourself a code.
Okay, go ahead and flip to the back page, and we're gonna go over critical illness.
Here, they're right here.
Okay. And this one, to be honest, I probably don't even need
I
to
don't use those.
Yeah,
I don't use those.
because this one's a very simple benefit, okay? But again, if you ask that initial question, what runs more in your family, cancer, heart disease, neither or both, and they say heart disease, boom. But even if they don't, like, let's say, oh, well, neither, this one's a very inexpensive benefit to add. It's pretty awesome, okay? So how this benefit works is it pays a lump sum benefit, so go ahead and highlight that. It pays a lump sum benefit directly to you upon first diagnosis of a critical illness. And it includes things like heart attack, stroke, major organ transplant, loss of eyesight, loss of hearing. And the only thing not listed here is kidney failure, because it does cover that too. If any of those things happen, then you choose the benefit amount anywhere from 10 to 50,000 that pays to you tax-free. Oh, yeah. Did I not say that? Oh. So yes, loss of eyesight and loss of hearing is on there too. Okay, so like, let's say they pick the $25,000 benefit and any of those things happen, then that 25,000 pays to them tax-free. Okay, and they can do it on themselves or their spouse. Children cannot be added to this. There's no family plan, just so you guys know. We can only insure people on the critical illness 18 and younger, or 18 and older. I don't know why, it's just a rule. So you can't, like, because sometimes I'll write all these down and it'll be like family cancer, family accident, and then the critical illness, I write both. And then I re-emphasize this is only on you and your spouse. Because kids are not covered on that one.
Okay, and if you don't mind, I want you to do that one more time because
Sure.
sometimes, again, whenever we are in our presentation with a DM, that's much lengthier than when you're presenting to an employee. This should be short, sweet, to the point. 3 sentences, get in, get out, fastest one on the sheet.
Yeah, I love going over this one.
Super fast. You can compare it very quickly to the cancer one. We also offer that benefit for cancer.
Yeah, that's the one
Diagnosis.
underneath.
That's all I say. 3 sentences, will you do it one more time as if
Yeah.
you're enrolling it? Because sometimes we're like adding a whole bunch of words, you guys, and if you can get out of there, again, nobody cares what the policy does, they care about why they need it, okay?
Yep.
We do it one more time.
So the next one I'm gonna go over is this critical illness benefit. This covers more of the heart side. So if, you know, like you said, heart runs in your family, this one I would highly, highly recommend, because how this one works is it pays a lump sum benefit, and I take my pen and I have them follow along. Pays a lump sum benefit directly to you upon first diagnosis of a critical illness, and it includes things like heart attack, stroke, major organ transplant, loss of eyesight, loss of hearing. It also includes kidney failure. So like if diabetes runs in your family, that could be a concern. And you can choose an amount anywhere from 10,000 all the way up to a $50,000 lump sum that pays to you tax-free. And then just give them an example. Let's say you pick the $25,000 benefit, and God forbid you suffer a heart attack or stroke, that $25,000 pays to you tax-free, which the tax-free part is really, really important. Okay, any questions? And that's it. And then the cash cancer is right underneath that. Lump sum benefit, 10 to 50,000 on first diagnosis, pretty easy, okay? What is the max age on this one? Okay, good. Okay, what's the max age on the cash cancer? Nope. So cancer's one that's lifetime. Or I'm sorry, you can only issue it 69 and younger, but they can keep the cash cancer for the rest of their life. So once they enroll in it, they can keep it till they're 95 if they want. Yes. So if I'm sitting down with somebody who's 68 years old, I can't do Accident Protector Max, I can't do critical illness, I can only do cash cancer or cancer endurance. Okay. All right. Now the last one is the intensive care benefit. Okay, and that's underneath. So flip back a page, go to underneath the cancer endurance. I mean, this one's pretty easy to here.
I don't use that sheet either. You do.
But there's one thing I do wanna pass this one out actually. Or there's not enough copies. Well, I'm just gonna tell you guys, because it's a very simple benefit too. But this one is easy to build the need for because of COVID. So, so this next one I wanna go over is the intensive care benefit. And honestly, this has been really, really popular with everyone because of last year with the pandemic, and who knows what the next pandemic's gonna be. Obviously, you know, people went on ventilators and stuff like that. We're in intensive care for long periods of time. That's where this comes in, okay? And it does it, but what's nice about, this is the line that really builds value in it. What's nice about this benefit compared to all of them is it blankets everything. So, like if you're in intensive care for cancer, it'll pay for that. But let's say it's an aneurysm, pneumonia, anything, a bad car accident. If you're in intensive care, this benefit will pay. And how it works is it pays benefits for daily intensive care confinement. And there's 2 levels. So either $500 a day or $1,000 a day benefit. And then after you get out of intensive care, it also covers regular hospital room following intensive care. Okay. But just so you guys know how it works, the daily intensive care benefits $500 or $1,000 a day for up to 30 days. Okay. Then when they get out of intensive care, it pays $200 a day for regular hospital room. But what's also nice is if they take an ambulance to the hospital, it'll pay another $200. And then if they need blood, it'll pay $200 for that too. Okay. What's the max age you can enroll somebody in that? 59. And then, which is correct. And then this one's renewable till their 66th birthday, just like Accident Protector Max and critical illness. Okay.
We have this and Accident Protector Max to those ambulance things to be.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yep. They'll stack on top of each other. Mm-hmm. Yep.
You said it's renewable till age 66, like the Accident Protector Max, and what else?
Critical illness. Yeah.
All 3 up to age 59 to enroll. All 3 fall off at their 66th birthday.
Okay. All right. Any questions? All right. That's pretty much it. I think not too far over 2 o'clock.
This
So-
one, you have to have health insurance, though.
Yes.
That one, yes. Oh, you brought up a great point. Thank you. You cannot enroll people who are on Medicaid. Okay, in any living benefits. If they're on Medicaid, then the only thing you can enroll them into is life insurance.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up. I'm sorry. And a lot of times it'll be like, it's just certain industries. It's kind of, to be honest, like from my experience, it's very obvious where I'm like, these kids might be on Medicaid, like their kids, if they have kids. So you don't want to do family plan. Like, and how you find that out is at the discount card. So if I'm at like enrichment services, in-home healthcare, a daycare, just places that like, they just don't make a lot of money at all. When you get to that discount card, you say, now, do you have health insurance? And then what about your kids? Like if they have, because you already know if they have kids because you went over the accident or the accidental death benefit, right? Are you married? Do you have kids? Okay. Now, do you have health insurance? All you got to do is ask that.
And what I say, like, cause it's awkward, like sometimes it can be awkward. Now, do you have the health insurance through your workplace here?
Perfect.
Cause then you're also finding out if they're even offered health insurance, because some places don't offer it, right? So then you know for the rest of the people. But then they'll tell you, oh, no, I have my own through the marketplace
Or the state.
or I don't have it.
A lot of times we'll just say
They'll
the state.
do the state.
But once
So
they
if
say,
you have no health insurance, you can't get any of these.
No, it's only the ICU.
Only the ICU.
Yeah, health insurance.
if they have no health insurance, they can do the cancer endurance, accident protector max, critical illness. The only one is the ICU.
Okay,
ICU, you cannot, you have to have health insurance. But if you have state Medicaid or state Medicare, you can't do the living benefits.
And then this gets tricky too. So the accident
wait,
protector,
okay, sorry, pause there. That's where I'm getting stuck again. If you have state aid, you can't do the living benefits, any of them.
Correct.
Because those benefits would pay to the state.
They go
not
back to
them.
the state because the state.
This-
So if you don't have health insurance, you can't get any of these policies besides life insurance.
No,
Okay.
there's a difference. Medicaid is like for low income families that can't afford to have health insurance, and that steps in. Like my kids were in the foster care system, or I have WIC, and the state pays for my kids to have health insurance. That's Medicaid.
and can I emphasize something? When they're on state health insurance, they pay for everything. So they actually don't
There's no
technically need it. So
out-of-pocket.
if you go to the emergency room, there's no bill
Right.
if you have state health insurance.
So
Okay,
if they
so-
had this coverage, it would pay to the state. It would pay to-
Yeah.
Okay, so Medicaid is where they help, and state, they pay it all for you.
No, it's the same
Medicaid
thing.
and state are the same thing.
So I'm just saying, when you ask them, sometimes they'll be like, no, my kids have health insurance through the state. What they're saying is my kids have Medicaid.
They won't say.
It's the
Medicaid
same thing.
because they're embarrassed
You don't
sometimes.
want to cover the kids. It's like,
Oh, okay, are you covered on that as well?
No.
Sometimes they are, sometimes they aren't.
but
A lot of
Good to
times
know.
the dads aren't, sometimes the moms are, it just kind of depends.
Sometimes the moms
ask
are
that.
when they're pregnant,
And then they
they'll
fall
be
off.
on state. Well, then they technically, you don't want to make a claim on this during that time.
So when they have Medicaid, you literally just fill up life insurance, just don't even
Yep.
know or anything else?
Correct.
Yep. When the employee themselves have the state or Medicaid, then yes, you only do life insurance.
Can you do a quick little career like what,
Sure.
just like what you said?
Yep, but one thing I just want to say about the Medicaid and Medicare, sometimes like the mom and dad will not have health insurance or whatever. And let's say you do the accident protector max, it's a family plan. Technically, the kids aren't covered on it because we can't make claims for it, but it's still the same price. If you do, husband and wife is a family plan, regardless if they have 1 child, 0 kids, or 5. Okay? So just keep that in mind, because I ran into an issue where I wrote a family plan because they were husband and wife. Well, they tried to make a claim on a kid, it ended up getting denied, and I'm like, why would I've written it like that? And I'm like, oh, well, they're married, it's gonna be the same price anyways. I just didn't realize, like, of course, I'm like, oh yeah, you have a family plan, of course your kids are covered. But if they're on state, which will help you with all the claim stuff, so.
And like most of the time, if that's a claim, because it's happened to all of us, or that happens, and then the claim, like, most of the time it's because the check never arrives to that family, and then you go back and investigate, oh, it was sent back to the hospital. Because it's, oh, is your kiddo on Medicaid or on state aid? And they're like, oh, yeah, I'm like, that's why I didn't pay to you, because you didn't have any out-of-pocket costs, and the state covered that.
That's
Some-
different. Sorry.
Sometimes they're mad about it, and then you explain, like, but you and your husband are covered on that just because the claim for the kiddo didn't work. Or like your income fell to, or whatever. They're after you talk to them, like, you're still covered, and you know, again, it's $2 a week.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, it's essentially anything that they are not paying out, but the marketplace, they are paying something.
Yeah, then it would pay for marketplace. Marketplace is completely different than Medicaid.
Medicaid is where they are just not paying any.
Right.
Totally subsidized.
And then just real quick, I meant to tell you, for the accident protector max, one claim story, I had a family of 4, they were in a car accident. They had the family accident plan, they all went to urgent care, and they didn't stay or anything, but that benefit paid $2,000 because it paid $500 for each person. Which I was like, it made us look really good. They were very, very happy. So that's an example you can use too.
And I had one, I think it's February in Egypt, guy got hurt at work. It was a hand jack to lift something up and the handle hit him in the face, broke his cheekbone. So it was workman's comp, and actually the bill was $8,700 and some odd dollars, workman's comp, so they paid for it, but he still got a check from us because he's covered in
Yeah,
addition to workman's comp.
it's a great, yeah, good example.
And I signed him up on a Wednesday, he got hurt the following Monday before that policy even got uploaded. Of course, so he had to wait a little bit
Right.
to get the check, but it just reiterates the fact when we say you're covered as the day you sign, that really, he signed on a Wednesday, got hurt the following Monday morning and filed a claim.
And you guys are bringing up good points. Okay, so on that point, the accident protector max and life insurance, they're covered from the moment they sign. Okay, from the moment they sign. So our e-apps are time stamped from when you actually lock them. You have to be careful because sometimes we'll leave apps unlocked for whatever reason. Many reasons for that, but if we do, be careful you don't say you're covered from now. Okay,
Like
Say
if
you're
they're
covered from
waiting.
the day you sign.
Yeah, like, I really want the accident plan, but I wanna wait on this cancer plan, call me on Monday, they're not covered yet,
yeah, don't say they're, so, you know,
'cause you're not locking it.
yeah,
You're
you don't wanna be on the
calling
hook. And then, the cancer endurance and the critical illness have a 30-day waiting period from the day they sign. Okay, the effective date. Well, so there's some discrepancies on that. Okay, because that's what I thought too. But then I got with Tony again and he said from signature. So,
Because it should match like on the individual side, right? But it's your individual sales 30 days from the day they sign.
right,
I've been telling, as I read those policies, unless you have to go, so
That's what I tell
this is that, well, because like, since you're enrollment with 12:30, you can set wait to 1:30 or to 1 before you go.
yeah.
check out.
I just say that too.
And like I've had a lady, she was like, oh, she's like, I do have a like a mammogram or whatever. I try to tell them like farther out just to be safe. Like if they are specifically asking a specific date, like let's not play roulette here. You know what I mean? And like if you're gonna push that doctor's appointment out, you might as well, let's just be safe. And let's just push it out 30 days from the effective date or whatever. Just to like if they're asking you specific, you know what I mean? But typically what I do is I'm like, now that you're covered as of today, except for that cancer endurance, there's a 30-day waiting period and you won't see those deductions until whatever date. I'll do that on the payroll authorization. So I'm glad you brought that up because of that. So, okay. Any questions? Okay, I'll go over critical illness or Career Life Plus. All right, so back on the page with critical illness. So Career Life Plus. Really, you only want to write this on kids and grandkids, okay? So I just start with that. I'm like, because you have kids and grandkids, I want to go over this Career Life Plus. It's really popular with parents and grandparents because it's a way to lock in your young children's age into life insurance when it's like nothing to cover them, okay? And they can have that life insurance for the rest of your life. Have you ever heard of the Gerber Grow Up Plan? I just keep it a conversation. Have you ever heard of the Gerber Grow Up Plan? Whether they say yes or no, I mean, most people say yes, I've at least heard of it. This is basically the exact same thing, except it's a group rate because you work here, okay? And why it's really popular is it's life insurance for that child, the rest of that child's life. And how those plans work, how whole life works is you lock their age in. And obviously we don't want to perceive anything happening to our kids and grandkids because you'll get parents that'll be like, I don't want to get life insurance on them because I'm like, think you're jinxing them, which I think is just like the dumbest thing I've ever heard. But, you know, people think all kinds of different things. But the point is you don't get it because you're like scared your child's going to die. I mean, sometimes people will if they have an illness, of course, but the point is like the motivation of like why to get it on, like I got it on my kids is because they're 1 in 3, You know what I mean? Well, I got Madison's when she was 1, but you lock in their age, that's the cheapest it'll ever be for them and for yourself. And they're covered in the meantime. So I always say that while I'm going over this. So it's exactly like the Gerber Pro plan, except it's a group rate because you work here. And the way whole life works is, obviously we don't want to perceive anything happening to our kids, but as they grow up and they have a family one day themselves, not only will they have that life insurance, but whole life builds cash value. So as you're paying into it, it's going to build some cash value in it. And not only you can gift this to them later on in life, so not only will they have their life insurance, but there's some cash value there. And then I always tell my story is like my parents did this for my sister and I when I was a baby. And when I turned 26, they transferred the ownership to me and I still have it. So I have that life insurance. It's like 40,000 and I got a little bit of cash value there. But my sister used hers to pay for part of her wedding, which is a true story, to be honest. She cashed hers out. My parents were like, not very happy about it, but it's kind of like you can create a conversation about it.
Did you already say something about guaranteed insurability? I'm sorry.
No, I did not.
So, like you said, you tell your story and I use my story because like as a teacher, I had it life insurance, thought I was covered, didn't know anything about what I was covering, right? And I came to work here. And a year before I stopped teaching, I was diagnosed with diabetes, which changes your insurability. Not that I can't be insured, but I'm more expensive, right? And my son, my younger son, is built more like me. So I use that. I'm like, I got him his life insurance so that he's guaranteed the best coverage at age 8 instead of worried about like what happens whenever he turns 25 or 30 and he has a health issue. Okay. So again, I'm not trying to perceive something happening to my kid. I'm trying to guarantee him the best coverage that I can get him at the most affordable cost so that he has it guaranteed for whenever he's an adult. That way, whenever he's 40 and he's like, oh crap, I need life insurance, mom already took care of that for me, or grandma already took care of that for me.
And so what guaranteed insurability means, they don't have to worry about health questions. So hopefully you guys understand that. And so like her son can double his coverage periodically throughout his life without proving any insurability, whether whoever that employee is works at that company or not, which is pretty awesome.
Say that again.
So it's at the 2nd year and 4th year for sure. And then it's like when they're 21, and don't quote me on this because I forget, but it's like 21 and 25. There's like certain age brackets, they will get a letter in the mail, and that's what OPIs are. Like if you guys have ever heard OPI, it's option to purchase additional insurance. We just say OPI. But it's Career Life Pluses. On the 2nd year and 4th year, they can double the coverage for whatever the standard rate is. They don't have to prove. So let's say that child at age 8 gets diagnosed with cancer and you have 20,000, you can just immediately up it to 40,000.
You don't have to.
It doesn't matter that they have cancer, even if they're terminally ill. Yeah.
Up to 50.
Well, no, they can, when you first enroll them,